Welcome back to Beyond the Singularity, where we speculate, percolate, and exasperate all things sci-fi. I'm your host, Kyle Culver, gaming as Diabetic Gamer, and you are listening to Episode 6. Peaceful Gamer has been an advocate for No Man's Sky, Hello Games, and all things peaceful and soothing. His appreciation to literature and the search for knowledge combined with an open mind makes him an interesting intellectual. And he would be too humble to admit it, but I consider him to be one of the most well-rounded thinkers of not just the community, but in people that I know in general. He's definitely a guy I could talk to for hours. In our talk, he speaks about his long history with games, including quitting them for a time, and getting a revitalized appreciation with games like Flower and Journey. But his username isn't just a handle, he actively approaches everything in his life, online and offline, with peaceful intentions. This is what I love about Peaceful Gamer. We talk about his approach to dealing with trolls, being the center of information during the frenzy of Waking Titan and sharing on Twitter, and Waking Titan itself. He also goes into why No Man's Sky has been so influential for him, and how it stirs an imagination nostalgia unlike anything else.
Well, for me, you are sort of the centralized hub of where I get my information, and that's where I was getting it from the start of Waking Titan. Have you always been on Twitter?
It wasn't the original plan. I was kind of planning to be on YouTube as well, sort of using Twitter as a sort of notification sort of hub for my YouTube stuff. But then I became a dad, and time got less and less,
As
and priorities, shift around. And so I just kind of, Twitter just sort of grew into this sort of organic place for me to sort of exist, in the social media world. And I just kind of, I've just been watching it sort of grow and people following me. And I don't know why. I'm not that interesting on there. I talk about one game. And mostly...
That's all you need to talk about.
Yeah, so it's been kind of cool how it's just sort of grown, and you just see the fans of the game come together and just sharing stuff and sending me screens, and I'm seeing awesome stuff and videos and just people enjoying the game and some people hating the game and me enjoying those people hating the game because they're missing out. They're really missing out.
As your name reflects very well, Peaceful Gamer. That must be, a practiced approach to some of those comments. Like, how do you come about facing those people?
Oh, with great challenge. It's well, to kind of give you a little bit of history. Like I was playing, Call of Guilds. I'm a Grand Theft Auto fan to this day. I just love the craziness of the open world sort of experience that they create. But I'm just a big fan of freedom in games in general. And just a few years back, I just made meditation in my real life more of a central thing in my life, and sort of my taste in games and my taste in entertainment in general sort of started to shift, sort of just organically. And I started to sort of move away from the more games, not just kind of I just kind of felt like there was just an oversaturation in the industry of not the same, but very similar experiences, very tried and tested experiences.
Yeah.
And I kind of found that I was in a place where I actually was kind of considering, maybe I'm just going to step away from gaming for a while and just kind of put it away and not really pay attention to what's going on. And a little game named Flower by that game company kind of began to shift things for me. Sort of at the same time that things were sort of happening in my life, me becoming a little bit more mindful about, my attitude, the vibe I'm putting out, the way I speak to people, and the way I communicate online. And
it was a very, very different game, especially with the saturation you were talking about.
Absolutely, it was just a stark contrast to kind of. It just came at the perfect time with sort of how I was feeling about gaming at that time. That here I was playing as, the wind blowing a flower petal, through the air, and that was the whole game. And I was just kind of like really dumbfounded by the simplicity of the concept, but like the simplicity of it all was, it created such a rich experience. It touched me in a way where I was like, there's this eye liquid that's, collecting in my eyeballs right now because I'm overcome by this like emotion, like, wow, like the things that I'm starting to kind of be more aware of within myself. I can see how others are sort of experiencing that and then using the art form of gaming to sort of bring it to people in this very lighthearted, nice way.
It's beautiful.
And,
yeah.
And when they followed up with their game Journey,
also a very, very different, excellent game.
Yeah, and that also took me to a really sort of deepened that whole experience of this sort of games as art sort of vibe that was also starting to come about at that time, and the multiplayer was very interesting in Journey, which kind of reminds me of how No Man's Sky is sort of dealing with things at the moment. But yeah, so just sort of my natural nature in life started to become more peaceful, become more mindful. And I sort of saw online, on Twitter and stuff and wherever, there's a lot and trolling and things like that, and I'm, I enjoy it to a degree because it helps me practice my, my calmness and my way of dealing with people, and
I think we all could use a bit of practice.
Yeah, well, we all live on the same rock, spiraling around a ball of fire, so we all, hopefully figure something out at some point around on our journeys. So, I just wanted to sort of start living life a little bit more positive and start to influence, my life in a more positive way and the people around me. And I wanted to extend that to the digital world with everyone I virtually come in contact with as well. So
well, I'm glad you did, because it's definitely inspired me as well. I know I was having a crisis with my YouTube channel in general about a year ago. I was unsure as to what kind of direction that my material should be going. And it was because of games like that, including No Man's Sky, that reminded me there's so much more to gaming, so much more to these experiences that are commonplace right now. There's more of a humanistic approach to everything, and I feel like that was kind of that's kind of missing to a degree out there, and I felt like it's something that I'm naturally attuned to and something I'm naturally capable to present, I suppose, because I do short films and I feel like I should be telling those kind of narratives. So I'm like right there with you on the same path as far as, let's bring the peace back. Let's understand what, back to basics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So jumping from, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. It's just keep it simple, keep gaming simple, keep your vibe simple. Don't complicate things. things are complicated enough. Let's keep gaming simple. Let's keep having fun simple.
You want to talk about complicated? We should jump into Waking Titan.
Let's do it.
That's quite a 180, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump right in. Lost and confused.
Before that, I should have probably mentioned your Twitter profile says, I say stuff about No Man's Sky a lot. You're a gamer dad, a husband, graphic designer, meditator, likely human. I like that. I like that touch at the end.
Yeah,
probably
likely. Questionable, whatever this human thing is.
He has emotions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Meat sack with all sorts of sensory inputs. Sure.
That's great. So where did you hear about Waking Titan? What was the first thing you saw about it? And why did you even start to follow it?
Well, I first saw, I believe it was something on Reddit that came up about the audio cassettes that the moderators started to receive. Mm-hmm. I think that's the first thing. And right away, for some reason, it seemed to me like it was somehow already No Man's Sky related. I don't know how. It seemed weird to me that they're getting these audio cassettes and they're all from No Man's Sky subreddits.
With a secret message saying portal.
Yeah, or just the fact that these people got packages that were audio cassettes, mm-hmm. Just kind of, piqued my interest right away.
Different?
Yeah, that's totally different. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Of course, nobody knew at that point that anything about Waking Titan. It was just the biggest kind of teaser you can ever imagine. Like, that was it.
Yeah, that was really crazy. Just that whole few days, really, when all that stuff started to drop about the audio cassettes, and then somebody had come forward about this other sort of thing, this ARG with these 16 radio stations and, the 16 tapes, 16 stations. People were like, maybe this is related. And I was just digging around. And I think somebody finally ended up posting the audio clip of the first radio ad that played on that Project WT website with the radio stations. And it was just the woman's voice, that we are the mystery hiding in plain sight. You will find us. This is the first clue or something like that.
Yeah.
Man, I just remember the first time I heard that radio ad, the goosebumps that I had, this intense sci-fi creepiness that just swept over me. I was like, oh yes, this is so awesome. I'm like, oh my god, this is so creepy, this is so cool.
Where do I get more?
Yeah, what is this? What? And I'm like, I don't know why, but just in my bones, I'm like, this is No Man's Sky related. Before any kind of confirmation, I'm like, it just has to be. This is the coolest thing I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. Like, this is so cool. And I got some flashbacks to Halo's I Love Bees ARG that I was just like at the tail end of just kind of like clicking on a few links just to see what people were talking about. Didn't really follow that. I was definitely too stupid for that at that time to even remotely follow any of that. But I'm like, oh man, this is like this, alternate reality game or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. And then just how it slowly started to unfold.
And her voice was captivating.
The voice, the slight digital distortion on it, and I was like, the background, how crisp the sound came in.
I actually wanted to meet that woman.
I know. I wonder if
I hear your voice in real life? Because that sounds incredible.
I know. That was really a great first sort of impact for me. Hearing that ad, they really kind of set the tone for of would imagine the whole thing would play out. And I think the first phase definitely played out sort of that way, and then things got weird. Or telling a digital hamster which way to to move around on the TV screen in the end. But
talking about those moments, which one or what ones kind of come to mind? I know you talked about the first radio broadcast, but are there any other moments that kind of stick out to you when we talk about Waking Titan?
Sort of all throughout, just sort of touching on the topics, quantum physics and philosophy and some Greek mythology and stuff like that. It's all sort of stuff that I dabble in. So it was kind of cool just throughout the whole thing along the way to just have all that sort of content sprinkled throughout it. I just found really fascinating. One of the, honestly, just to geek out, one of the best sort of memories I have of it is when we got those decoder wheels, and actually just 2 days before that, finally got a color printer in my house. I just do all my printing, at work and stuff, and so we finally got. And so I'm like, oh, awesome! I get to print something, and I get to cut it out. And I remember printing it out and getting my scissors and cutting it out, and that was really memorable. One of the it was really, on top of that, really memorable. Ran into my bedroom where my wife was watching TV, and I showed her that, check this out, I just cut these out, and I'm gonna decode this code that they sent us in the email. And she just, the blank, just dead look on her face that she could not care less what I was talking about. And I was like, okay, bye. Ran out of the room, and I'm like, all right, whatever.
I feel like everyone who has a spouse or a significant other has experienced that at some point during Waking Titan.
During Waking Titan, for me, even No Man's Sky in general, I'm just, are you playing your space game again? Yes. Yes, I am.
Yes, Mom.
Yeah, so, that was definitely really funny. But I'm also kind of, aside from my sort of memorable moments, I think by the memorable moment that the whole community got to experience with the Waking Titan experience. Really, the Hello Game even went this route to sort of introduce this origins lore, if you will, that we're all a part of. It's really cool. I really didn't expect that at the end of all this, we were sort of going to be uncovering the beginnings of the Atlas and the Atlas Foundation, and and all the sort of beginnings of the lore,
and influencing things in the game. So in the new update, we've got community groups that are now implemented into the game. That's awesome. That's how much we've influenced it. The origins aspect.
Yeah, I think that's just, it really says a lot about Hello Games and their appreciation for the community that's really stuck it through the last year.
Yeah.
It's a real testament to the types of humans they are, typing away on their keyboards. Basically, for me, digitizing my childhood imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't even begin to wrap my brain around how artists create game worlds where they model everything by hand, but then to try to wrap my head around how you're using math to and algorithms to generate an entire universe and all these planets that at this point after these updates, the terrain to me looks I'm always fooled that I'm looking at naturally formed terrain. I don't see something that a computer created.
I saw I saw the 3 GDC talks from Sean Murray. Gosh, I can't remember their names. Inez and sound designer
Paul Weir, the sound director. Yeah.
Paul even said the technology and the stuff that they're using isn't new. It's just been kind of collided together to make something new. And even before GDC, before the game released, that's something Sean had said in one of his interviews, was that it's nothing new. It's just a bunch of techniques that they've used in other games to make this game possible. And it wasn't a matter of making the technology, but just figuring out how to make it work. And that's where I think their genius level just kind of goes up a notch, because you think about it, and you got to be one of those other programmers in another studio thinking, oh, no, that can't be possible. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of man hours. That's going to be really hard to implement into, these systems, these engines. It's just it can't work. And then you get someone like them who are just like, all right, we're going to make it work because.
Yeah.
Channel dreams.
It's unreal to me. Sorry, I'm just going downstairs. It's unreal to me how, like, what they've been able to achieve by putting all these different pieces together. I never really, until No Man's Sky, never really heard anything about procedural generation. I sort of understood. I saw a couple of videos here and there. Like, oh yeah, especially with like fractal art and but I never really looked into it in terms of like game design. And then, sort of started to look back on the earlier, previous examples of the tech being used, but it's sort of all coming together into a game like No Man's Sky with this infinite universe, sci-fi based, really, like I said, really tapping into this childhood imagination that I had growing up, flying around little flower pots and things, with little spaceship things, and it just really taps into my sort of my imaginative nerve, my creativity and stuff. Like, it just opened up this, creative portal for me to start producing all this like fan art for the game.
Yeah.
That I've never really produced. I'm a graphic designer by trade, so I've been doing that for like 14 years. And so I've always sort of just done that as a job. I've never really, before I started working professionally as a designer, in school and stuff, I would, create little posters and things like that. But once I kind of started working professionally, I didn't really have any inspiration to kind of do stuff on my own on the side. And then No Man's Sky comes along, and boom, it taps into all these memories and things, and
it's fantastical, man. It's their inspiration from old sci-fi. I think it makes it all that much better, because when you think about the future and what society thought the future would look like, you go back to the 50s, the 60s, and that was kind of what the future was, and it was more fantasy than sci-fi. And then you jump forward, and now we're in dystopian futures where everything's destroyed, zombies cover the earth, that whole thing. Now they're bringing back this colorful future with round edges and just that old 60s sci-fi that I think like you're saying, is just part of your childhood dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those like neon colors and things,
Yep.
like growing up in the 80s. All those sort of things were, things that we collected visually along our childhoods, that kind of influenced how we imagined things to be. And for me, in my imagination, outer space has always been very vibrant, full of color, full of life. Very much how No Man's Sky, portrays it. Then you have games like Star Citizen, Elite, and stuff like that, which are more space simulator, which are beautiful in their own right.
Absolutely.
I don't like when those get compared with No Man's Sky, because even though they are this set in space, you're comparing a space simulation game with sci-fi, of course, but it's very much simulator based, to something that is full of fantasy. So it's just a little bit of a different taste, I guess, in terms of how you want to explore that genre. But
that's what always kind of surprised me, as far as people's point of views in similar genres, or subgenres, I should say, actually, is that they have this expectation when you say sci-fi or fantasy. And then you look at Star Citizen and you attach that to sci-fi, and then you look at No Man's Sky and you say that's sci-fi as well. But then people are confused because they don't look the same at all. Yeah. So one of them has to be wrong, right?
Right.
So people have, these expectations of what sci-fi is, but really it's just a vision. And visions are what kind of pave the way to, how the game looks, sounds, that whole thing. Kind of like how filmmakers have visions. It's not your vision. It's not the audience's vision. It's the filmmaker's vision. Like, that's his project, not yours.
Yeah.
You can't say what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and it's the vision of Sean Murray and everybody at Hello Games for what this game can be, because I really feel like with Atlas that this is sort of the real beginning for where No Man's Sky can go. And I think we don't, once we have stuff like multiplayer implemented in a more traditional way, according to Sean's own words, that a more traditional multiplayer experience will be available or will come later. Hopefully that's still in the plans. Seems like it is. But, once that happens, once things get a little bit more fleshed out, I think, who knows where this game could go. They've got somebody on the team that deals with procedural generation of cities, full cities and stuff. So how will their talents get implemented into future updates? For me, one of the most, and I'm sure probably a lot of people, for me visually, a very moment is, flying, or leaving the Earth and flying to another system. Sort of let's base it sort of in our real world. If we were to venture out as human beings out into space, to explore planets, I think one of the most iconic sci-fi sort of moments is seeing a planet and then seeing, an arrangement, a grid of lights, where you can see that there's a civilization that lives on that planet, that sort of that first contact actually literally like the movie, the first or Contact with Jodie Foster,
right?
That moment where she's going through the tunnel or whatever she's going through there, and she sees a planet and she sees that it's populated. She sees there's lights. That kind of moment. Like, I hope that something like that will also make it into the game. You're just flying up to a planet and you see there's patterns of lights and roads or something, and you fly down and all of a sudden there's a city and there's ships everywhere, and
you just got to see everything. You got to get down there and just like,
yeah, you got to get down and explore.
Yeah.
That would be so cool if that could be worked into the multiplayer somehow, where
it makes me wonder how far their vision was going before they had so many of those setbacks, like the flood and the Sky Company, and so many other things. How much was actually planned out, and then how much were they going to implement at launch, and then how much were they going to add later on? Because obviously, I mean, clearly the game's not finished yet. There are going to be more updates. There's going to be more updates to lore. There's going to be or a story even. Really, this thing is so massive. I don't. And you start talking about cities. It's like where do you stop? You just keep going. This is. I can only imagine where No Man's Sky is going.
Yeah, totally. Like, as
gets us really excited about it.
Absolutely. And this is what really excited me about it from the beginning, was sort of people are like, oh, I spent whatever on this game and it's lies, whatever. For me, I don't know. I guess maybe just because from the first moment that I learned about No Man's Sky, I was in. I was just in. I was hooked. Yes, childhood flashbacks, I'm in. And for me, because I guess I was just so into every single piece of information that I could possibly find about the game, then, at the same time, sort of then discovering Cobra's channel, and he started to cover it. Then Syrian came along, and Elka Legacy Zero, and everybody just started coming in and and doing videos about No Man's Sky. Dan Before Time, get indie gaming shoutouts, and and Iceman Third ID, and and all these guys started. I started to kind of follow what they're doing, and then we sort of organically formed a group. That we've all stayed in touch with each other over the last year plus, and
so your passion for this game, your excitement for this game, is what led to everything that has come to pass over the course of this past year, as far as the content being released, you on Twitter throwing information out there, sharing your photos and whatnot, connecting with other people, countless other things.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and I've always sort of seen it as this sort of long-term investment. It wasn't, for me personally, I sort of knew with everything that I was reading, with trying to understand, hey, these guys are really doing something like that's never really been attempted before. Yes, like you said, the pieces exist, but to then bring it all together into this one cohesive sort of concept, in the sci-fi genre, which I think is just the perfect place for that. When you're talking about infinite possibilities, boom, set it in infinite space, done. All those things, it's like, really, you just got to tweak a few numbers, tweak some algorithms to really affect things in big ways. Okay, that sounds great for, updating the game. And just sort of everything that we heard, the sort of daydreaming about what this game could become.
Oh, totally.
The
speculation, the what ifs. I mean, I have never speculated so much before in my life. I absolutely love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, that should be like the tagline of No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky, speculation.
Hashtag speculation.
Like, yeah, just it's a part of the game, and I think maybe it will always be. I hope that there will always be questions that remain unanswered. I hope.
It's that mystery that keeps me going for sure. The unknown, just one more jump, just one more planet.
Yeah.
What else is out there?
You know what? I absolutely love that. I love the not knowing what's ahead. At the same time, the leaving behind something that I probably will never see again, unless now you have a portal there, or or whatever, right? Now you have a way to sort of go back, but still, you don't always remember certain places, or are able to say the location of a certain place, and you just kind of like, oh man, you know what, this place is kind of cool. Hopefully I can find something like it or a little bit better, and you kind of move on, and then it takes 200 more hours of gameplay before you even come anywhere close to something like that again, and it's like, I do see a lot of variety, because I also consider, not just, what's underneath my feet, but, as much as what changes on the planets is relevant, what you're looking up, what's on the horizon is also relevant, the way the planets are arranged, and, the scale of the planets, and if they have moons or not, and is there a space station, is there a black hole in that system, the color of the nebula, there all those things really layer on to creating these unique vibes. Absolutely. And I personally pay attention to so much of that. I take so much of that in that I really can't say, for certain that I've had, very similar experiences, because even playing on the same planet a couple days in a row, the experience is completely different, because I'll be doing something completely different. I'll be either growing a farm one day, or the next day I'm just off shooting bounties or something.
It makes you appreciative for the photo mode feature for sure.
Oh God, what a just time suck. I'm a digital photographer all of a sudden, in a way.
It's true.
Virtual photographer.
They give you so much control with that thing, that you can create techniques to call yourself a photographer in No Man's Sky.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it. I've seen the proof, not on my own feed by any means, but on other people's feed, like some of the pictures that people are able to get. I'm like, how do you do this? Teach me your ways. I need to learn this, depth of field effect that, people perfect. It's like always a portion of my ship is blurred out or something, like a wing. I'm like, I can't get this right. Damn it.
That's why I immediately started following Quest.
Yes.
Because they were sharing, automatically, just sharing photos and then doing their weekly contest thing.
That's awesome. I love that.
Such a great way to see how beautiful of shots you can get with photo mode in No Man's Sky.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Absolutely every photo you see from anyone is 100% totally unique.
Yeah.
It's not shooting.
The filters are interesting because I don't normally, they're really intense filters with an enormous amount of contrast, and some of them are I would say monochromatic in a way. But it just makes it that much more interesting because people find a way to use those filters in such a unique way that you're like, I didn't even know that was possible. I thought this filter was crap, and now this person makes it look like it's gold.
Yeah, totally. I love that flipping through the filters sometimes where I'm like, oh, this image isn't so great, and then I'll flip through the filters and I'll land on one. I'm like, whoa. just totally makes that image, just switching to like the black and white one or the crazy contrast one or something, you know.
It brings another level of creativity to the game that
it turns it into art, you know, because then you're adding things and playing.
Let's not kid ourselves. Settings. The whole game is art.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely say that it is, you know, and it's, I mean, just hours and hours for me of just awesome times, chill experiences. That's really what I sort of seek in my everyday life, just keeping it chill.
You were telling me you fall asleep in some of your sessions.
This brings up a lot of pain for me because now that I've restarted playing, you know, I've got limited slots in my suit. So I've like, you know, I gathered resources and then like I'll go to play the next day and I'll be like, I don't really remember how I, you know, finished playing last night. I'm like, so I load up the game and I get into the game and all of a sudden I spawn next to my tombstone. And I'm like outside of my ship and I'm like, what happened? I'm like, oh no, I must have fallen asleep again. Just just outside of my ship staring at a rock.
Normally I would say that's a bad thing for a video game, but this truly deserves it.
You know what? It's just such a relaxing, ambient, subjective experience, really how you want to play. You know, you want to blast out into space and start blasting pirates, go ahead, or you're just walking around getting lost in the ambience of the sound and the ships that fly by and whatever's on the, you know, horizon up in space that you can see. I just get lost in all of it and I just get so relaxed.
They totally nailed the ambience.
I really think they have, and they continue to improve upon that. And I think it's incredible how immersed I can get in the experience. You know, even sometimes I really just stop because the audio is just so like, you know, when I hear like leaves rustling, you know, and then I hear weird, you know, little animals in the background, and then you hear some ships fly by, and then you hear the breeze come in again, and it's like
and everything echoes through the canyons and the fields.
And I'm just like, I just stop there, and I'm just like lost in the moment of the sound of it. You know, I just kind of like close my eyes, take a few deep breaths, and then I'm out cold. You know, so then I'm back to, you know, a gravestone that is now empty because I didn't claim anything, you know, because I didn't save the game, obviously, before my console shut off. So
we clearly don't have to say that you love No Man's Sky. There are too many reasons why this game is so incredible. But I think we've digressed into No Man's Sky a little too far here, and I want to get back to Waking Titan. And just one last question. Where do you think the ARG is going? Now, we got the final email saying Waking Titan has ended, but the ARG is continuing. What do you think they're going to be doing next?
I really hope that it takes things in-game. I think now that I think once also the eTark forums are going to be shifting over to the Citizen Science Division official page or forums, whatever that will be. I think once that happens, perhaps, you know, around the same time, people start to receive their level 4 Atlas passes.
Yes.
You know, the physical ones. I do believe, though, that everyone will get level 4. I just think some people are going to get a physical memento sort of thing. That's sort of my thought about it.
Okay.
So I think, you know, perhaps in the game, the level 4 Atlas passes will become available. And hopefully that has, you know, that unlocks something worthy of unlocking. So I'm very curious to see what that's all about? You know, because why not give us, you know, physical level 3 Atlas passes?
Yeah.
You know, what's this level 4 about? So I'm hoping that now that the community is sort of being brought together, and we'll have a more centralized space to, you know, work together and communicate and share everything. I hope that it does take things sort of in game and have us participate within the game too. You know, maybe, you know, we could get coordinates to a certain portal, you know, and we have to go there, and there will be something waiting for us there to discover.
Level 4, another mystery yet to be discovered.
Yeah. So, you know, they could give us coordinates to any planet they would like, and it'll be interesting to see, you know, if there's anything spectacular to be seen on the other side. So I'm very hopeful for some in-game action.
I'm with you on that. I really do hope, because I like how they implemented some of the clues at the very beginning of the ARG into No Man's Sky with the comm balls, and then near, I think it was phase 2, they had 8 comm balls spread throughout several planets that affected a sequence of codes to input into the Awakened Titan console.
Right.
And then
that people would have missed that, because that took about 30 minutes to find all 8.
30 minutes? No, it's more like 5.
Yeah, maybe 5 minutes. That was just so insane. That was so insane. That was amazing.
And then you have the glyphs, which, of course, we haven't even unlocked all of them yet.
Yes.
And yet we're still using all 16 in the game right now. So, you know, I truly believe they're going to be pushing this thing more into the game. I'm just curious to see how they're going to do that.
Definitely. I think there could be a portion of it that will pop up on maybe wakingtitan.com at some point. Maybe the site will update again. We'll see. I think things will sort of be timed to level 4 Atlas passes arriving, this CSD website, you know, going live, and those sort of components coming together, and then things could potentially take off in game somehow. You know, but I think people need to have some time to settle into all the new content that's there now.
Oh, totally.
You know, like I said, I'm still scraping through, you know, like the introductory missions. I just like claimed my first base.
I have so much work to do. I hope they push this off a little farther.
Yeah. So, you know, and I think, you know, give it another sort of, you know, maybe 3-4 months, you know, sort of the time frame of a next, you know, update, whatever.
Level 4 Atlas Pass for Christmas.
Yeah, there you go.
Holiday.
So I think I think we'll definitely be seeing more with future updates, and I think maybe potentially that's when it'll kick off, around the time that some next update is introduced, or there's stuff waiting for us to already discover that's been placed there. Those things need to be triggered, you know.
That's true.
To find, right? So
many galaxies, so many planets.
Yeah, you know, we don't know what they added. Really, everything they added in this update. So there could be a lot of stuff waiting out there for us to discover. You know, maybe some stuff that we'll never even get clues about. They're just kind of sitting there, which I really hope for that kind of stuff.
You know what I hope they do, and this is kind of a final thought, very random. I kind of hope they do some sort of holiday-themed coat to the entire game, like every planet has snow falling with snowmen everywhere instead of rocks, you know?
Like hopping snowmen instead of those pineapples.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
That would be so funny.
Or like for Halloween, you've got little jack-o'-lanterns bouncing around.
Well, you know what? This is sort of back to the point of they could just have like a Christmas planet, you know, and they just release the portal coordinates.
Oh, that would be awesome.
To everybody, and everybody can go and check out this one planet that's themed this certain way, or this entire system.
All right, you hear that, Hello Games?
You know,
we need that.
You hear that?
Christmas planet.
We need we need a gingerbread planet, Christmas planet. We need like a pumpkin spice planet. Yeah. You know, like that kind of stuff. Candy cane planet. Do it up, all in one system. You know.
If you're not following Peaceful Gamer on Twitter and you're into Waking Titan or No Man's Sky, go give him a follow. These podcasts have been just a small portion of what I create here on my channel, so feel free to browse the video library, and if you like what you see, consider subscribing. A big thank you to Jacob, who has allowed me to use his music in this episode, and you can find his music on SoundCloud and other places that have been linked in this post. And until next time, I'll see you beyond the Singularity, travelers.